people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. The ongoing situation involving former unified champion Gennady Golovkin vacating the only remaining title he had left, the WBA title. Apparently, it appears he wants to fight on,
making this a stone-cold duck.
It's a duck. Don't try to explain it away based on Gennady's age. Lara is just about as old as Gennady is. Gennady Golovkin has vacated his WBA middleweight title, the organization announced on Thursday. Triple G informed the WBA of his decision earlier Thursday ahead of a scheduled March 13th purse bid for a matchup against Lara, the WBA's regular champion, as the organization continues to consolidate titles. Golovkin, 40, relinquished his 160-pound IBF title last month, and following Thursday's move, is no longer a champion. Lara, however, is now elevated to recognized champion and instantly becomes boxing's oldest reigning title holder. He turns 40 next month.
Now, you could argue that the WBA were a lot more Johnny on the spot when it came to Lara, that secondary champion, as opposed to Gervonta Davis, who also holds a similar version of the title at lightweight that Lara holds at middleweight.
You could argue that the WBA were quicker to order one fight than the other, but the key component you'd be missing is Lara, at least seemingly, he wants the Golovkin fight, whereas Gervonta Davis, who is a secondary champion like Lara is a secondary champion, he doesn't want to.
He didn't want to fight Vasily Lomachenko, didn't want to fight Teofimo Lopez, didn't want to fight George Kambosos, and doesn't want to fight Devin Haney.
That's the difference, that while he has held on to that secondary title a lot longer than Lara has held on to his version of the secondary title, Lara is pursuing the Golovkin fight, at least seemingly, whereas Gervonta Davis was never pursuing a fight with any of those fighters. Thus, the WBA was not as Johnny on the spot to order it.
Order a fight between Gervonta and them.
That's the difference. Back to middleweight. While Gennady remains committed to fighting again, he has not made up his mind about many of the elements critical to planning and arranging his next bout. Golovkin's representative wrote to the WBA in an email obtained by ESPN in light of the impending deadline for a purse bid for a fight with WBA regular champion Lara as ordered by the WBA. Gennady does not wish to see the process drag out any longer.
Listen, it's a stone-cold duck.
I'm not going to waste any of my time or yours attempting to apologize for Gennady Golovkin's decision like some others. As stated, it's a stone-cold duck. This is not some hungry young lion we're talking about. This is a 41-year-old Lara.
It's bad optics that Lara has claimed that he wanted this fight for many, and I mean many years. And when push came to shove and both boys were at the same weight,
neither guy was tied up with anything else, and the powers that be ordered the fight. It's bad optics that it's Gennady that went the other way, that he chose to surrender the only title he had.
It's bad optics.
Golovkin's lucrative deal with DAZN expired following his loss to Alvarez. He is now a promotional and network free agent. While Triple G plans to continue his career, it's unclear where the Kazakh goes from here now that he's no longer a champion.
I don't know what correspondence there was, if any, between Team Golovkin and Team Lara. Did Team Lara's people try to bring Golovkin over to the PBC and Showtime side of things, or were they simply waiting him out?
Knowing that it's unlikely that Gennady's going to fight with Did they even bother to make Gennady an offer? Did they bother to bring him over because they figured he's not going to fight this guy anyway? All we've got to do is hold our position, wait him out, wait for him to vacate, and we'll pick up the title.
I don't know that the Lara people even bothered to make Gennady an offer. The same can be said in reverse. I don't know that Gennady's people bothered to make Arislandi an offer to bring him over, but Bring him over where?
Bring him to the zone, bring him to Matchroom. You see what the article says. Gennady Golovkin is a network and promotional free agent. He's not tied to anybody.
And given what Gennady Golovkin's been getting paid and what he would expect to be paid moving forward, given his age and at this stage in his career,
who's going to pay Gennady the way Gennady wants to get paid? Because if he's sticking around, it's not to fight for peanuts on a dollar. It ain't so he can fight on the cheap.
The Lara fight isn't happening, so it doesn't look like he's going to the PBC. I hardly think that Bob Arum over there at Top Rank is going to break the bank in order to finance a 41-year-old fighter's inflated purse demands.
Guy in his early 40s with no belts?
Doesn't look like Gennady's going to the PBC. I don't think he's going to Top Rank.
Says he still plans on fighting on, but to fight who? What fight with what fighter out there can get Gennady Golovkin the kind of money that he'd want to make? The only name that comes to mind is Jaime Munguia.
But it wouldn't be for an alphabet title. It would be for no belts at all.
Golden Boy Promotions can get in contact with him and orchestrate that fight. It would still be a fight of some value. That's the only option I can think of for Gennady to get out there and make some money.
Gennady Golovkin's countryman and reigning WBO middleweight champion Yanibek Alimkhanulai reacted to the news by saying,
"Everyone knows that I couldn't fight Golovkin because he is my older brother." Figuratively speaking, of course. Now he has vacated all the belts. Now I can collect all the belts.
Not exactly.
Not really. Two of the middleweight titles are over there on PBC Island. Erislandy Lara's got one, and Jamal Charlo has the other. Yanibek Alimkhanulai does not have access to those fighters, those champions.
The only other title that he might have access to, and that's not even in the immediate future, is the newly vacated IBF title, which may end up being contested between Brazil's own Esquiva Falcao and Australia's own Michael Zarafa. But that fight, it's not even made yet.
Now, I'm just bouncing ideas around. I'm just postulating that this could be an opportunity for Top Rank to bring the WBA title over to their side of things if they're willing to pay to play. And last I checked, Bob Arum said that he is. He said he's willing to pay handsomely for any able-bodied middleweight to take on his boy Yanibek Alimkhanulai. Any able-bodied middleweight. What about a middleweight champion?
What about Erislandy Lara?
I know what I just said. I know that Yanibek doesn't have access to those fighters, but what you must consider is that while Erislandy Lara's name has already been tied to a Danny Garcia fight at a catch weight of 155 pounds, I don't think the PBC is going to break the bank paying Lara for that fight. There's a chance that Lara might stand to make more opposite the ring Yanibek than opposite the ring Danny Garcia.
It's an off chance, but there is a chance.
Well, Top Rank used this as an opportunity to put Yanibek in a more meaningful fight, a more important fight than any fight he's had so far. Are they willing to pay to play? They say they are. And will Erislandy Lara, in that situation, oblige them? I know it's not likely, but it is an idea we can consider.
I mean, look at Stephen Fulton. He's fighting Naoya Inoue in Japan.
I didn't even think that was going to happen.
So, maybe this can too, if they want it to.
Men's super lightweight news, two-time super lightweight champion Regis Prograis on Subriel Matias. He's not on my level. I'll definitely whoop him. I actually spoke to Regis Prograis earlier this week, and in so many words, he said the same thing. He likes his chances against Subriel Matias, and, what do you expect a guy to say?
The real question is this fight about to happen?
Honestly, I think he's not on my level, said Prograis to BoxingScene.com. I'm not going to say he'll be an easy fight, but I'll definitely whoop him. Despite his recent arrival to the world title scene, Matias is overwhelmingly confident in his ability to squash just about anyone who stands before him. Shortly following his latest in-ring triumph, Matias warned Prograis, going as far as to say that he would send the WBC trinket holder to the hospital.
Trinket holder? Who wrote this?
The guy that goes by the name Hans Themistode?
He's not a WBC trinket holder. He's a WBC champion. He's a current reigning champion, a two-time super lightweight champion.
A full champion. If you want to know what a trinket holder is, that's more of a Gervonta Davis than a Regis Prograis. Gervonta Davis, who is in possession of a WBA secondary title that is little more than just a segue to fight for the full one, though apparently apparently he doesn't want to.
We've talked about that, but that's a trinket, not this.
Ultimately, Prograis views the Puerto Rican's threats as nothing more than bloviation. While he was tempted to engage his fellow champion in a curse-filled war of words, the New Orleans product refused to do so. Instead, the 33-year-old wished Matias nothing but the best in his future endeavors, as he hopes that their paths will eventually cross. Hopefully, I can fight him one day. Just tell him to keep that belt. I hope he can keep that belt. Just keep the belt tight for me.
Irrespective of who you think wins this fight, what is paramount is what it takes to make it.
Because we won't get the answer to that question unless somebody does. Now, Subriel Matias, he's a PBC fighter that boxes on the Showtime platform, whereas Regis Prograis, when last I checked, he inked a deal with Probellum that is now called Disrupt Boxing. Disrupt Boxing Promotions, but Disrupt or Probellum or whatever their name is, they don't have a U.S. broadcast partner.
Prograis, aquí está lo que estabas buscando. Te reto, ven. Te voy a mandar para el hospital. Toma la chiste.
And that is the newly crowned IBF super lightweight champion Subriel Matias once again calling out Regis Prograis. And look, call-outs are fine. Call-outs are all well and good. But what's actually happening behind the scenes in order to make this fight a reality?
Because call-outs in and of themselves are meaningless without action.
When last we heard, the people over there at Sky Sports and Boxer already have some kind of deal prepared, some kind of offer for Regis to cross over to their side of things and voluntarily defend his WBC title against their man, Jack Casserole. If Jack Cataract's team can formulate an offer, be so Johnny on the spot, to see about getting their man that Regis Prograis fight, what's stopping the Subriel Matias people from doing the same thing?
Not even saying that the Jack Catterall fight is official, because it isn't. But if his people are already exploring a Regis Prograis fight, what's stopping Subriel Matias?
His team, I should say. I don't doubt Subriel Matias's earnestness. I don't doubt his desire to do the fight. I'm just wondering, when is his team going to do something about it?
When are they going to put some hustle behind that muscle?
When? That's the question. Because Regis Prograis, in spite of being with Probellum or Disrupt or whatever it's called now, they ain't got no U.S. broadcast partner, no network deal, no network money. Whereas the PBC, they're in bed with Showtime.
They have been for ages.
You want to do this fight or do you not want to do this fight? What's the skinny?
For my money, this is the best fight, the single best fight the super lightweight division has to offer. No other fight quite like this fight.
It's an amazing fight if they can do it, but who's going to do it? Who's going to pay for it? Because somebody has to.
If the fight happens sooner than later, then I definitely favor Regis to win it, though Regis is some years older than Subriel Matias.
That means time is of the essence for him, more so than Subriel. The sooner it happens, the better. Subriel Matias is a very heavy-handed mid-range to inside fighter.
His last outing with Jeremias Ponce, Jeremias elected to fight fire with fire, taking it to Subriel Matias, but that left him subject to Subriel's power.
All those exchanges. Jeremias Ponce, a good young fighter, he doesn't have the upper body movement and the angles of a Regis Prograis to offset that power from a fighter like a Subriel Matias.
And he's not the puncher that Regis is.
Subriel Matias and Regis Prograis are arguably the two biggest punches in this entire weight class.
Jeremias Ponce likely can't get the respect of a Subriel Matias the same way that a Regis Prograis would. A Regis Prograis might.
If they actually fight. And Regis Prograis, compared to Subriel Matias, you know, they're both mid-range to inside fighters. They both have the same sweet spot, but I happen to think that Regis is more defensively responsible than Subriel.
Rolling counter, slipping counter.
Staying off the line, angling that torso to bring over counter shots while you stay out of the way of shots. I mean,
if the fight happens sooner than later, I really like Regis' chances in this thing, but the fight has to happen sooner than later.
Finally, ahead of his upcoming fight with Ryan Garcia, Gervonta Davis says, "It doesn't matter who they put in front of me. I'm better."
Perhaps, yes, better than who he's fought so far. We don't know that he's better than a Devin Haney, a Vasyl Lomachenko, or a Shakur Stevenson.
We don't actually know that he's better than Ryan Garcia. That has yet to be determined, though if he does end up stopping him...
That still doesn't make him the best lightweight. That doesn't prove that he's better than all those aforementioned guys.
It doesn't. Although Ryan Garcia is expected to give Gervonta Davis a bevy of issues come April 22nd, by and large, both the betting and boxing worlds are convinced that the Baltimore native will ultimately walk away with his hand held in triumph. While he appreciates his supporters, Davis believes that their willingness to pick him to defeat Garcia should extend to the rest of the lightweight division.
And it doesn't.
Not when you're unnecessarily catch-weighting Ryan Garcia, not when you're unnecessarily rehydration clausing.
With all the weight stipulations, are you nervous or something?
I'm the better fighter, said Davis on his upcoming bout against Garcia to a group of reporters. It doesn't matter who they put in front of me. I'm better.
He might be better than the guys that they've put in front of him so far, but moving forward...
You see what they did to Ryan. They're trying to weaken him, soften him up for Gervonta Davis. And although Ryan Garcia signed on the dotted line...
And he must assume and accept the responsibility of what comes with that.
He has to. That doesn't change the hierarchy of thought that the Davis people had going into those negotiations, that you won't fight this guy on even terrain.
You want to take as much out of this guy as possible.
You didn't do any of this to Mario Barrios. When he fought Mario Barrios, it wasn't at a catch weight of 136 pounds. It was at 140. So at minimum, what this communicates is that the Davis people view Ryan Garcia as more of a threat to Gervonta than they did that guy.
Otherwise, what's with the catch weight? What's with the rehydration clause?
And you know that even in the absence of all those weight stipulations that have since come to light, Ryan Garcia is already a greener fighter than Gervonta Davis. Gervonta has already campaigned at 3 separate weights.
No overestimation. Safe to say that Gervonta is the more experienced fighter and the more maturated fighter, and even with all of that maturation and experience, that's not enough for your team, your handlers. They're not confident.
This isn't like when Canelo Alvarez went up to light heavyweight and fought Sergey Kovalev, because Canelo, he'd never been to light heavyweight before, whereas Gervonta Davis, he has fought above 135 pounds.
He's been to super lightweight before, and he didn't need all these bells and whistles.
And if it was so horrible that Canelo Alvarez may or may not have had a rehydration clause in the Sergey Kovalev fight, for all those people that are bothered by that, what do they think about this?
Does this bother them?
They're just gonna move the goalpost. You know how those guys are. Mental gymnastics.
I don't have a horse in the race, you understand. I'm no more invested in Ryan than I am in Gervonta. I'm just calling a spade a spade.
Lopsided negotiations, lopsided terms and conditions. The people over there at the PBC negotiate like a bunch of fucking cowards.
Seems that way. I mean, look at the negotiations for Crawford versus Spence. Only 30% Terrence Crawford with no money down. No guarantee.
Tack on that they wanted to push the fight out to the following year so that Errol Spence Jr.'s fans could chastise Terrence Crawford for taking a keep busy fight, even though the Spence fight wasn't going to happen till the following year anyway.
They negotiate like cowards. Their fans are brainwashed.
You were truly confident that Gervonta Davis could overcome Ryan Garcia. You wouldn't need weight stipulations. Gervonta has fought at 140 pounds before.
What's he need with all those weight stipulations now? What is it about Ryan?
What is it about this kid that has those guys so nervous? Is it his height, his length? Is it his speed?
Might be. I mean, he is already bigger than Gervonta Davis, but when you add speed, lightning speed, demon speed to the equation...
Speed! His speed is what they hope to offset by weakening him in camp. Special emphasis and attention has to go into the preparation for this fight.
For Ryan, it does. He has to arrive at 136 pounds. Match fit.
But he is committed to this fight. That much he has communicated. The sacrifices and concessions that he has made are the only reason we're here now.